I know many of you have been waiting for this video. Now is time where I reveal the step-by-step setup of my AI team. And there you will see why it is so efficient and in fact running our whole business with 30 agents in parallel with just one orchestrator in there and all without any code. After this video, you perfectly understand the folder structure that I'm using, all running on a local folder. No third-party tools needed to get this going. So let's dive right into this. So here we are. This is what we will build, and this is the foundation of every efficient AI team based on the principles that we build it. So we have Larry, he's the orchestrator. He will delegate anything that you provide to this AI assistant to the right specialist to do the best job. The orchestrator is not allowed to do any work except organization of the team, organization of the folder structure, things like this, recommendations for optimizations of the team, things like this. The orchestrator is just here to translate whatever you want because he best understands you and your needs to the specialist. So he provides the wording that they do. When I worked in corporate, I was a business analyst. That was my job title. And my job was to translate what the experts working in the business need to the IT team so they can deliver what the business actually needs. And usually they're always lost in translation. And that's where you get business analysts, for example, who understand both worlds and can perfectly translate what each other needs so you get the best outcome possible. And this is exactly the job that Larry is doing here. And then the next person we need is Nolan. He is our HR guy, human resources, although it would be rather the agent resources. But you will see we will always connect it to real world work to build efficient human teams. And this is what the whole AI team is based off. If you have an efficient team working in your business, human people, they know where to find information, they know where to store information so others can find it. They know exactly what the priorities are, what to work on what, who to reach out to be the most efficient person to get the job done. Then you have a highly effective business system already in place. You know your business processes, and that's how you optimize business processes. The same happens here now on the AI level. So all we do here is always based on the ICOR methodology, the ICOR journey that you can go through, where we explain how a productivity system end-to-end works in a tool-agnostic way, without automation, without AI, because automation and AI is just another layer on top of the basic principles of productivity. You can go through this no problem to build your team, but if you really want to understand the decision making, why I built this AI team the way it was built, you better go through the ICOR journey afterwards to dive deeper to optimize your own work, maybe your employees' work too, because this is interconnected and it applies to both worlds. So this means after we finish, you will reach out to Larry and ask him if he can do something, and he will probably say, no, I'm not able to do that. He will then check who is available in the team who could do the job. If there's nobody, he will recognize that, reach out to Nolan, and Nolan will hire a new team member who is a specialist in this job that you need to get done. And then Nolan will hire the next team member. And once you use the team for a while, it ends up like this. Over 30 AI specialists working just for me inside the business to take over a lot of work that usually other human beings would do. And that's exactly how they work. And that's why I gave all of them an identity. They have a name, they have a persona, they have their own history, who he is, why he joined. This is just something that let me better connect to this AI agent. It feels like that they know about themselves. Also, this is obviously just based on data, but it's then also much easier to keep these different AI agents in mind. If Larry says he needs to reach out to a person, he knows that, and then I can readjust Larry if he goes off rail. If he says something wrong, I say, well, we have a specialist, and just name the name of the specialist and he perfectly knows who I need, who I mean. And the third AI assistant in this basic team structure would be Pax, and Pax is our senior researcher. So this just means if Larry needs a specialist, Nolan will hire it, but he has no expertise about the specialist. Nolan will reach out to PEX to do research of who makes a perfect specialist in this area, and PEX comes back with all the details, what makes the perfect person to get the job done, and then Nolan creates this person for us. That's what we call now hiring in this process. I strongly believe that using common wording with your AI team makes it much more effective to understand how to work productive in your business. Why? Because AI is trained on human data. So therefore, there is a lot more data when it comes to productivity about project management, effective team management, all these things that when you talk to AI this way, it knows that you're talking about business productivity, work productivity, and can connect to it better than you try to program something that is based on code. So that makes it so powerful. If you are good in organizing your work and finding information, that you can perfectly apply this to AI too, because it gets the point. And this is where it's a complete different approach on how I build this team than maybe others do who approach this rather from a code perspective. Now let's talk about the folder structure. In the end, we will just have a simple folder that you have on your local machine that works for you, that you can just access at any time to reach out to Larry and get work done. That's the most flexible setup that I ever used, because I can move this folder anywhere I need it. I can have it on different devices. I don't need to download any additional software, and I own completely the data. The data is readable and so on. Many things that come with building this yourself versus downloading something that is done for you and not understanding what's going on under the hood. This is what this is all about. Therefore, let's zoom out and let's look at this folder structure holistically, so you understand all the different features that we will build, so you understand the functionalities that you can access using this team. So this Larry's AI team is the root folder. That's the folder that we will create and that we will work in. It will be an empty folder, and on the root level there will be Larry, and Larry's persona will be just saved inside a CLAUDE.md file. Two things to this. First of all, if you never heard about this, don't worry, it is just a simple text file that describes who Larry is, and it's Claude.md because we will use Claude to build this team. However, the way we will build it makes it possible to use Gemini, Codex, or whatever you want, Kimi, any models, because the structure is independent of any dedicated files. Here it's Claude.md. It might be a different one for a different model, but they are all capable to run the same team structure later on. Now we have this on our root folder, and there will be a team folder, and in here we will have the other members in there. So why is this? All these members have their individual Claude.md files, okay, to identify these personas. If you're using Claude already and you heard about this, you know that when you start a session of Claude inside any folder, it will look up for any Claude.md file on the root. So it knows what this folder is all about, how to work inside the folder and so on. And this is the reason why Larry is on the root and not inside the team. We need to have him here. He's the orchestrator. He has the overview of all of what is going on inside the folder. So he can then hand over work to our other team members, which essentially means he launches agents, that's called agents, sub-agents, that load in their own Claude.md file. So for this example that I said, that Larry wants to hand off my work to somebody, he looks up the team roster for who is available. Therefore, he will look into a team index.md that quickly explains him who is in this folder, what are they capable of to do. This is what we will have in this folder. Then he knows there's nothing. He will hand off the work to Nolan. This means just that he will load in his own Claude and starts looking for the expert, but he is not the research expert. So for this way, he will reach out to our research expert PEX, and he will has his instructions how to do best research, hiring the first person. So this is the team. But in order to make this functional and really useful for you as a professional, we need a few more things. I want to have another folder called Owner's Inbox. So this inbox is for me to review any work that the team has done. So let's say they write a document for me, or that they create images or anything like this. They should first move it into this inbox for me to review. This really allows me to make the whole thing scalable and allows me to work in parallel, because if different team members work on different things, they hand over their work for review in here, so I can calmly review the individual items. But once we decided on something, it needs to be stored either permanently or deleted or archived. And that's where we need to have the knowledge storage. And this is first an archive inside the owner's inbox that I personally prefer. Any work that is completed just gets moved in here, chronologically ordered based on date and title. And therefore I can always go back, but more importantly, the team can go backwards to find something that we worked on before. But on top of this, we want to have a BKM folder. BKM, if you went through ICOR, you know it's business knowledge management. But whenever I use these terms, you now have to see it from the perspective of Larry. It's Larry working with his team. He's organizing his team using his own business knowledge management to store the information long-term and so on. This doesn't mean that our human team has access to this folder. It's really to make aware what this team is working in. In this business knowledge management folder, there can be several folders over time occurring depending on your use case and what you use your team for. But one thing that I want to have in there is for sure SOP, which is standard operating procedures. Again, from the human world, if you have people hired, you give them work instructions, documentation, so they know what to do without asking you over and over. That's something that gets into these SOPs. Now, if Nolan needs to know how he hires a new agent, we could write everything into the CLAUDE.md file, but that's something we want to have as small as possible because this saves a lot of tokens. Instead, we want to have a document here, for example, called how to hire a new team member. And now in this CLAUDE.md file, Nolan knows it's referenced to this documentation. So when he starts work, he knows there's a reference to this SOP. So he reads this SOP and then he starts hiring. We want to have this because this makes everything really independent, because we have a perfect documentation on how things get done. So now, for example, if we move on to Gemini or anything else, we only need to update a small file here, but all the major documentation stays untouched. And again, this is based on real-world use cases, because working in a team, having a single source of truth for how work get done, the moment they start working on a task, the task links to this SOP so they perfectly understand how to get the work done. And it's the same principle that we have here. Another one could be called how to do deep online research, which is then for X. And again, he will just link out to this one whenever he gets spawned. And obviously, on top of this, we need the original, how to orchestrate owner's requests, which would be then Larry linking to this one. And now if we want to keep things efficient again and keep it scalable, again, we need an SOP index file that tells Larry very quickly what piece we have available. This allows now to find any gaps and how to update things and so on. What we also want to have is a team inbox, which is just a folder for me to hand over any working files. Let's say I want to make a screenshot of something. I could hand this over to Larry via the chat directly, via the terminal or whatever we will use to build this, to reach out to Larry. But I also can use this folder to place in any files that I collected over time. Sometimes it is really a bunch of things. In my example, I have also a scanned documents folder inside the team inbox that is directly connected to my physical scanner. So I can scan a document, it's directly connected to my Dropbox folder, which is this one. This lives on Dropbox, so it sends it to the Dropbox folder, which essentially ends up in this team here. So I can just scan these things whenever I get new invoices or contracts or anything. I can scan and forget, and it keeps sending it here, and then I can tell Larry later on to work on these scanned documents, to organize them into my BKM system. so we have a long-term storage, or into my PKM. Okay, that will be another folder where we have then our personal thing. This is something that is my personal insights, daily journaling, things like this that we can use for personal insights, while here this is just related to the team's knowledge. Okay, it's not related to my personal insights that I want to get out and build my knowledge base. Here it is just to make the AI team efficient and know where to find references and things like this, versus here is really my own insights that we are building. And you see, again, we are using the terms here, personal knowledge management, BKM, business knowledge management. And now we need to provide the same also to the individual members, because only through PKM, personal knowledge management, or the knowledge base that you build over time, you become better over time. That's what we do already for years, and that's what we can provide to the team too. And we will do this in form of session logging. So this means now our actual team members become a bit more complex than that, and we need actual folders for those. So Nolan will be in here. We move this down. Team index is still on the root of the team. And now we could add the session logging for each individual team member. However, we will make the whole team already much more efficient by creating a database that we use for the session logging. And again, this database will then live inside this BKM folder. And this is an SQLite database. Don't worry, we will get to this in each individual lesson. I will dive deeper into the details here. Just know that this is a very standard database that you can use locally to get more organized, these things, and make the things more accessible and more efficient. And here we will have team session logging, team knowledge DB. This is just a simple file that this database makes up, and in here we will have different tables. So if you have no idea about databases, you probably used Excel sheets or Google Sheets. In the end, you have a sheet which is the table, and then you can have additional sheets in the same Excel file or in the same Google file, and these different sheets are called tables. Okay, so the overall file would be this Excel files, and then you can have these different extra tables there, and that's the same that applies to the database here. So we will have a table team session logging, and this is where we will in the end have a folder here called .claude. If you don't know this yet, .claude is a hidden folder that Claude creates automatically whenever you work inside a folder and you create skills or agents or anything like this. This will be created automatically. It might be hidden. We will see this, how you can make it visible. And in here we have a folder called commands, and this allows you to create custom commands. And again, if you're confused, don't worry. We just call one command CLAUDE.md, which is again just a simple text file where we have a prompt to tell Larry, good job, now close the chat, make all the insights updated in the session logging. So he keeps this in mind. So we enforce things to keep things clean, like clean up the owner's inbox and things like this. We can write into this close chat command, and then later on we can inside the chat very easily call this. So instead of writing out the prompt all the time of what I just described, we just need to simply write this and it will do all for us automatically. And then we will also see that in this .claude.md file, there will be an agents folder, which is now the Claude version of these agents. So now you could say, why this is redundant, right? Why do we create this here when we have it in here for Claude? Again, because I want to stay independent. Now we have this .claude.md with the agents. The details only live in here if you say to Claude, just build agents. And then when you want to switch to Gemini or anything like this, then you are stuck. That's why we build it in this independent structure, so we can move on at any time. Then in the owner's inbox, we can have a daily journal, which allows you to simply create your own journal entries by simply talking to Larry. That's something I do a lot. I just send a screenshot to team inbox or directly to Larry, and I say, create a journal entry for me. And he knows that this is my personal knowledge now, and he moves it in here, and he creates this daily journal. And now we can also here have this owners PKM database. Okay, we can create also SQLite database here. SQLite database PKM owners PKM DB, similar to this one. And now let's call this BKM. So we could have everything in one database, but I keep it separated. So I can perfectly move on with this part if needed to a different folder. Everything is consolidated in one database, and it's a clear distinction between what the team needs to work and what my personal insights are, and therefore things don't get mixed up. And with this basic structure, it's enough now to get started to build this out with Claude step by step. And in the end, you will have this structure, and it is scalable from there. You can do whatever you want. You come up with your own ideas then later on. But this is what we want to get started with. Now, if you like what you saw in this video, I'm happy to tell you that we have now a step-by-step deep dive course that on top of this overview, you will get prompt sheets, you will get the folder structure for each step for you to download. You get guides that dive deep into each of the different parts of this AI team. And of course, you can always go into the comments on each step to reach out and ask any questions if anything is not working. We are really proud that we've been able to create this all new course that is available now. So if you're already a my ICOR member, you have instant access, no additional payment needed. And if you want to stay up to date, make sure to subscribe to this channel so I can catch you up in the next one.